Hey, class, and welcome to BS 200 discussion number 3. I'm so glad that you are here with me today. What I want to do is I want to talk about this, what I deem as a very important topic when it comes to studying the Bible, studying scripture, and it is called biblical theology. I'm going to have some simple slides just to be able to walk with me as I go through my thought process today in regards to this topic of biblical theology. But I think that when it comes to studying scripture, we need to have a grasp on this, understand this concept, because that is the best way that we can study scripture. So, what is biblical theology? Well, straightforward, it is basically the message of the Bible. Key emphasis on the message, right? Not the messages, but the message of the Bible, right? The way that biblical theology approaches scripture is instead of thinking, what's the message? What are the separate messages in the Bible? What is the message in the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible? What is the message of Genesis or Revelation? What is the message that Isaiah was trying to present? Or what is the message that Jesus was bringing? Or Moses or Abraham and so on and so forth. We say this. Instead, biblical theology approaches it and says, how do we read the separate parts of the Bible in light of the whole? Okay, let me move this up a bit if I can so that you can be, there you go. Okay, there we go. How do we read the separate parts of the Bible in light of the whole? So again, what we're doing is we're viewing the separate pieces of the Bible, right? We understand that there are separate pieces, right? There's different genres and sections of the Bible, but what we're doing them is we're seeing them all in light of the whole of Scripture, okay? In other words, we look at what is the big story of the Bible, right? What is the storyline, right? Just picture when you're reading a book or when you're watching a movie, right? It's basically you're looking at the storyline from beginning to end, right? I love watching movies, and one of the things for me is, does this movie have a good storyline? Is it captivating? Is it drawing me in? Can I understand what the storyline is, what the essence of the storyline is? So, what is the storyline of the Bible? Biblical theology tells a story, right? Instead of giving these timeless principles, right? It's not just these random timeless principles that the Bible gives, but really what we're looking at is we're looking at the storyline of the Bible. The Bible, biblical theology tells a story. When we view the scripture this way, we're looking at what is the story of the Bible, okay? Why does it matter? Here's another question that we're looking at. Why does it matter? Okay. If we don't understand biblical theology, we risk missing the big idea. Okay. The big idea, right? You ever been in a conversation with someone and you're talking and you miss the important part of what they're saying? Or you ever go to church on a Sunday and you miss the piece or the scripture passage or the main idea of what the preacher is talking about, and then the rest of the time you're basically trying to understand everything because you're missing that main concept, okay? And so we miss, if we don't approach it through biblical theology, we risk missing the big idea. The big idea is important. Here's an illustration for you to help help you understand biblical theology and the big idea or the storyline, that story. It's almost like having a 1,000-piece puzzle, right? I don't know if you've done puzzles before. We like to do them at Christmas time, or during the holidays, right? We're just at home, we're chilling. And so my wife, she's into puzzles. She'll take them out and all the kids are just going to town. But could you imagine trying to do a 1,000-piece puzzle, but not having the picture on the box, right? To be able to look at as you put this puzzle together, right? Could you imagine? It's impossible, right? You have the pieces, but you don't know how they go together, right? Because you're missing that box picture, right? It would be almost like impossible to put that puzzle together. All right, biblical theology, it gives you that big picture, that storyline, so that you're able to put the pieces together in light of the big picture. Okay, we can do a good job interpreting one passage of scripture, right? We can take out our magnifying glasses and study what we think it means. But if we don't see how it fits with the whole of the story, we miss it. Okay. Biblical theology helps us understand that the Bible is about God. The Bible is about God. Okay. It's about his plan from the very beginning with Adam and Eve, all the way through Jesus Christ and through the people of Israel, right? And through sending his son and redemption and resurrection, and now the church. And then the recreation of what he has created. It's from very beginning to very end. It's God's plan. That is the big picture. That is the puzzle box that we need to look at, and we look at every piece of the Bible through the filter, through the lens of that story of God. All right. So the last question that I want to talk about just is, how does that apply to me? Okay. If biblical theology is a story of God, and it focuses on Jesus, how does our life story fit into the grand story of Scripture? How does that apply to us? How do we fit into this? Well, the overarching story of the Bible shapes our smaller story, right? The overarching story shapes our smaller story. Basically, we understand it through the lens of biblical theology, is that the Bible's past is our past. The Bible's future is our future, right? God making things new is our future, right? We are a part of God's story, right? We're not a part of the characters that were in the Bible, but God is still accomplishing His plan even today. And so, because we are a part of that, we are a part of God's story. So that's why biblical theology matters. It's looking through every part of Scripture through the lens of the storyline of God's plan of redemption for humanity. So I hope that this helps shape your approach to studying Scripture through this class. So thank you.